Hello everyone, I hope y'all are doing well and having a great Wednesday so far. In today's forecast update, we're going to be talking about Hurricane Erin once again. We're also going to be looking at multiple areas in the Atlantic that we need to watch for the rest of this week and especially into next week. And then towards the end of the video, we're going to be looking at the pattern across the entire US and seeing what we could potentially expect as far as precipitation goes this week and even into next week. So I'll have timestamps up for any section in the video, so feel free to skip to any part y'all want to see. But let's go ahead and get started with today's update. First, starting off with Zoom Earth here, and so you can see Hurricane Erin right here in the middle of your screen. And so as of the latest 5 p.m. update, Erin is still a Category 2 hurricane, but it has strengthened just a little bit, and the National Hurricane gets this or expects Erin to continue to strengthen a little bit more and become a major Category 3 hurricane by tomorrow morning on Thursday and remain a Category 3 hurricane throughout quite a bit of the day Thursday, but probably weaken into a Category 2 hurricane by at least maybe late Thursday night into early on Friday. So that's the latest on the strength of the storm, and there is the cone as you can see, and it is expected to once again head northeast and make that curve out to sea. And it looks like the National Hurricane Center wants to show this storm becoming a tropical storm by maybe about midday Saturday or even Saturday afternoon. And then it wants to transition Erin into a post-tropical cyclone, which that means that it loses all of its tropical characteristics that it has now, but it'll still be a powerful low pressure by then. So starting off with our warnings here across the Outer Banks, Eastern North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland as well. And so we do currently have tropical storm warnings up for these areas all the way from portions of the Outer Banks up from about Morehead City up into eastern North Carolina, even into Virginia Beach, and then as you get into, once again, southeastern Virginia, eastern Maryland as well. And it doesn't quite go all the way up to Delaware, but there is a decent chunk of people under a tropical storm warning right now. So that is the latest on our warnings, and we don't have any more watches, I believe, at this time, but those are our latest tropical storm warnings at this time. So we'll go ahead and look at some of the models here, and then we'll look at some of the impacts for these areas for the next couple of days. So what does the latest 12Z morning run of the GFS weather model show? So here is Erin, a 958 millibar storm showing on the GFS, and honestly, the GFS has gotten a little better with showing the strength of this storm over the past really day, because this past weekend it kind of struggled, and even early this week it kind of struggled with showing the strength of the storm, showing it either maybe slightly stronger at times, but definitely a lot weaker most of the other times, if that makes sense. But as we get into tonight on Wednesday and even into early tomorrow on Thursday, outer bands from this storm could be hitting portions of eastern North Carolina, even into southeastern Virginia as well. And so even though these areas won't be receiving rain from this storm, the wind field from this hurricane will expand quite a bit and impact areas further inland. Hence why we have quite a few of those tropical storm warnings up for parts of the eastern seaboard, excuse me. So as we get further into Thursday as well, and even into Thursday evening, you can see the storm starting to make that recurve, but still that wind field is going to increase further, and even strong winds at that are possible along the eastern seaboard, especially across portions of southern New England. And so it wants to get this further into Friday and still get it south of Nova Scotia, but still winds will be impacting those areas. And so now we'll look at Newfoundland here. And so it wants to continue this on, and I do think Newfoundland as well could see some wind from this also, maybe by late this weekend, really late this weekend actually, maybe starting Saturday, even lasting until maybe early Sunday, potentially here. So it gets that out, and fully it tries to go all the way back out to sea by maybe Sunday evening or Monday morning. So that's the latest on the GFS. We'll take a look at the European weather model here as well, starting out with the eastern US. So looking at the 12Z European, the European wants to show this a little bit stronger, gets it to a 933 millibar low pressure, which that would actually align a little bit better with the National Hurricane Center because they do think it will get back into a low wind category 3 major hurricane as we get into tomorrow on Thursday. So still wants to show those bands impacting even portions of eastern North Carolina, southeast Virginia, Maryland as well, even into portions of Delaware. But once again, these are just going to probably be light showers at times, but still the wind from this will be the worst part of the storm for those areas on the eastern seaboard. Still, once again, it shows that recurving out and does not get any rain into Nova Scotia, and then we'll look at Newfoundland as well here. And so it has a little bit of rain trying to get into Newfoundland, maybe by excuse me, midday Saturday, and then even into Sunday maybe. But the European wants to show it getting way past Newfoundland and out to sea by Sunday. So that is pretty close to what the GFS weather model shows as well. So that's pretty much the latest on timing and impacts as far as precipitation goes. But now let's go ahead and look at some other things like wind and storm surge. So now looking at peak storm surge here. And so the National Hurricane Center wants to show quite a few areas receiving at least a little bit of storm surge. So all the way from Sandy Hook down to the South Santee River here in South Carolina is the area that could receive storm surge from this storm. But the areas that could receive the most are the areas in yellow in the Outer Banks, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge possible, and the areas in blue are 1 to 3 feet of storm surge possible in those areas. So this is the latest 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time update, and this may change a little bit, but I don't expect it to a whole lot more. But that's the latest on the storm surge. So now what are peak wind gusts going to look like for some of these areas? So starting out here with the southeastern of the Carolinas here, so really starting around Myrtle Beach all the way up into Wilmington, those areas could see 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts. And then as you get into eastern North Carolina, the Outer Banks, 40, 50, even 60 mile per hour wind gusts possible. And then the same goes for other areas up along the eastern seaboard here. So even into Virginia and Maryland, 40 and even 50 mile per hour wind gusts probably possible along the coastline and even further inland as well. As we get to New Jersey, same story there, 40, almost 50, even 50 mile per hour wind gusts possible. And once again, this is on the European weather model, which usually does pretty good with calculating the wind gust. And so even as you get to New York and even into Rhode Island and Massachusetts as well, some of these areas could see maybe 40, even 50 mile per hour wind gusts. So I do think the winds with this will be the biggest story farther north, but probably storm surge and the winds as well combined will probably be the main story or main thing to watch along the Outer Banks. So we get further north into Nova Scotia as well. Some areas of Nova Scotia could see maybe 20, 30, possibly 40 mile per hour wind gust as well. And that's pretty much the same throughout almost the entirety of Nova Scotia. Then getting into Newfoundland, southeastern Newfoundland could see potentially 40, 50, maybe even 60 mile per hour isolated wind gusts, probably at the most southernmost areas into Newfoundland here, but that is the latest on our winds. So now we're pretty much done talking about Erin, but talking about our areas we need to watch in the Atlantic that I mentioned earlier. So starting off here with disturbance 1, which is pretty much north of the Leeward Islands. And so this area has a 10% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone within the next 2 days and a 60% chance within the next 7 days. So that is the latest on this disturbance, and they've kind of maintained the 50-60% probabilities, but this may increase over the next few days. Then looking at this area well off the west coast of Africa. This is disturbance 2, which is actually called Invest 99L as of right now. And this is once again the latest 5 p.m. update. And so this area has a 40% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone within the next 2 and 7 days. So these are going to be the latest areas we need to watch. And in just a moment, we're going to look at some of the weather models and see how they play these areas out and what we could potentially expect to come out of these areas. All right, so what does the latest models show for our area here north of the Leeward Islands? So look right here down into kind of the center of your screen actually, but north of the Leeward Islands, you can see by Saturday, yeah, pretty much Saturday, the GFS wants to show an area trying to get developed here of moisture. And so we get into Sunday, then get into Monday as well, and there's Bermuda right there. And it tries to get something going maybe late this weekend, early next week on the GFS, and finally kind of gets maybe a strong tropical storm or a low-end hurricane getting pretty close or even impacting Bermuda. But still, it's far enough out to where we can't get into specifics really at this time, but still we need to watch this area carefully. We look at the European weather model as well as the 12Z run here. So you see your moisture right there, and you can see by Saturday it doesn't get really anything going. Then by Sunday it tries to get a low pressure developed out of this, and then it never really gets its act together and finally tries to drift on out to sea. So the models here, they're not too confident on anything getting developed or anything strong for that matter. So we'll look at the European AI model as well and see what it has to show. So there's our moisture by Friday. Going into Saturday, gets a low pressure developed, gets it into maybe like a tropical depression, potentially almost a tropical storm, and finally it pushes it on out to sea. But thankfully, the good thing here for the eastern U.S. is, we'll get to this further into the video, but the good thing for the eastern U.S. is that we're going to probably have some troughing here into the eastern U.S., and that will help to push any of that moisture or any kind of storm system on out to sea altogether. So thankfully that's going to be a good thing for the eastern U.S., but still I think we need to watch this area and see how it develops, if it does, and where it could potentially go, because it could still impact Bermuda potentially if it were to develop, but still it's a little too far out to tell specifics at this time. So we'll just have to keep watching this area. So what about Invest 99L out here into kind of the central Atlantic? So you can see all this kind of moisture down here into the bottom of your screen, and the GFS, the latest one, the 12Z, actually the 18Z is kind of loading in right now, but we can't see it as far out as the 12Z right here. So continuing this on, it never really gets anything developed on the GFS weather model, the latest one that I'm using, the 12Z. So we look at the European model and see what it shows as well. It wants to get a low pressure kind of going out here, but once again, it never really develops into anything. But still, you have all this moisture heading westward toward the Caribbean and kind of south of the Greater Antilles through the Leeward Islands by sometime next week. So even if we don't have anything to develop out of this, I think we still need to watch some of this moisture that gets further westward. So now looking at the European AI model as well to see what it shows, get into, let me back this up a little bit. Here's our moisture. This is Friday, getting into Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Does not get anything developed out of it either, but still it sneaks that moisture into the Caribbean, and I think that could be an area we still have to watch. Even though nothing develops out of it, the waters in the Caribbean are pretty warm, and so I still think it's a good idea to watch it. So what do the ensembles show for this? So we look at the EPS and GEFS ensembles here, and so the ensembles basically gives us an idea of where anything may develop. It gives us kind of a signal, you could say, because it puts together many different members all together kind of into one model so we can see them a little better. So each one of these little numbers here, these red numbers, indicate a low pressure, and this just indicates many members put into one. So there's not going to be this many low pressures in this area at one time. This just once again gives us an idea of where something could develop. And so it wants to show a few members trying to get something going, maybe Friday into Saturday, but then it finally dissipates that and never shows anything again. And there's even our signal well north of the Greater and Lesser Antilles by Sunday for our other disturbance, but we're not going to really talk about that. But still, looking at Invest 99L way down here, never does get anything developed out of that. And then you have some more low pressures areas trying to get developed well into next week, but it's just a little too far out to really pay attention to that. Now, what about the GEFS ensembles here as well? So we'll go to the 12Z run because the 18Z doesn't go out as far enough. But the GEFS ensembles wants to show about the same thing. Doesn't really get anything developed, but also shows our area, our disturbance 1 out here north of the Leeward Islands trying to get developed into something. So it's a little bit more confident on that, but it is almost exactly the same with the EPS ensembles with our area to watch down here. So it does not get really anything developed out of that. So that's just the latest on our disturbances on some of these models here. So now looking at the pattern portion of the video real quick here. And so the Climate Prediction Center for the next 6 to 10, or for the 6 to 10 day outlook, they have highlighted a large area into the Midwest, Ohio Valley, even into portions of the Mid-Atlantic as well. And they highlight this area of having the high chance for below average temperatures for the next 6 to 10 days, and also for almost the entire eastern U.S. except for the Florida Peninsula, even into Texas, New Mexico, the Northwest as well. But there's this large area here for potentially well below average temperatures for the next 6 to 10 days. And that is once again from this troughing that is going to be, or from the troughing that is going to be dipping down into these areas and providing that cold front through these areas. So once again, that'll also help to push some of the energy out to sea from any tropical storms or any tropical cyclones, at least for just a little bit. But we go for the 8 to 14 day outlook here, and they still want to show below average temperatures for almost the entire eastern U.S. and quite a bit of the central U.S. as well, except for portions of the deep south and northwestern U.S. So that is the latest on the pattern here, and we'll look at some of the models in just a moment. So taking a look at the GFS weather model here. So for tomorrow on Thursday, storms are going to probably be possible across the deep south and then even into the southeast as well. Getting into Friday, storms are probably possible along the deep south into the southeast as well, out into the central U.S. for this weekend. Then getting to Saturday and Sunday, still same with the southeast, seeing quite a bit of rain. And then you see our main kind of system way up here into Canada. And so we have troughing here kind of into the northeast, and finally that's going to dip down into the northeast, and then into the Midwest and Great Lakes states, and that will make its way all the way further down to the south. As we get into next week as well, next Monday, next Tuesday, probably some rain here in the northeast, Great Lakes states, into the central U.S. as well. Probably some storms out there as well as we get next week, and then into Wednesday, same thing there. Quite a bit of rain starting across the southwest, portions of the southwest and central U.S., maybe in the middle or latter half of next week. But now let's go ahead and take a look at the troughing here, and you can see it a little bit better with the 500 millibar heights. So we get into Saturday, get into Sunday, and there you can see our troughing start to make its way down into the northeast, the mid-Atlantic, even Midwest here, and that is going to kind of be our cold air supply, or not really cold air, but cooler air getting supply down here into some of these areas in the eastern U.S. So that is thankfully going to put the temperatures down quite a bit into some of these areas. So if you look at the GEFS ensembles, we'll look at the 12Z run here, and we'll look at temperature anomalies. So you can see this cold air a little bit better into these areas. So as we get into Monday as well, a large area across the Midwest, really central U.S. is going to be below average. Getting into Tuesday as well, especially the central U.S. is going to be below average. Getting into Wednesday and even Thursday of next week, below average temperatures almost dominate quite a bit of the country on the GEFS ensembles. And we'll look at temperatures here in just a moment as well. So look at the temperatures here, and so we'll go to midday Tuesday, and as you can see, a pretty comfortable 70s temperatures across quite a bit of the U.S., the really northern half of the U.S. by Tuesday, going into Wednesday, into Thursday as well. Still 70s and 80s across much of the U.S. here, with the highest temperatures being into the deep south and southwest, into the 90s and upper 80s, but mostly 70s and 80s temperatures for August, which is not bad at all, especially in the next weekend as well. Still probably some pretty comfortable temperatures across the Midwest and northeastern U.S. So that'll be really about it for today's update. I appreciate all of y'all watching, and I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's Wednesday.